Let's take a look at how we can set up categories for our classroom. If you click the drop-down arrow next to Gradebook and select the Setup option, you will now see the Categories tab. You can determine what type of category you'd like to set up. You can determine the weight for that category, whether or not to drop the lowest score for that category. You could designate which marking periods are going to be applicable to the particular category you're setting up. And you can also determine whether or not to exclude a missing score from the average or have that missing score count as a 0 in that student's average. So let's begin by selecting a category. We're going to select a major category, and we're going to weight this major category at 40. Remember, when you are weighting your categories, no matter how many you set up for a class, do not let that number exceed 100% or the number 1. So we're going to make the weight 40, and we're going to say there are not going to be any grades dropped. Whether or not you can drop the lowest score in any category that you set up for your classes will be determined by your campus administrator. Also, the marking periods that are applicable to that particular category that you are creating can be determined by selecting those. So let's go ahead and select marking period 4. And then we come to our final option, which is excluding missing scores from the average or having those scores count as 0 on the average. We're going to select the default, which is exclude missing scores from the average, because we may have a student who is out ill on a day that we give an assignment and also grade that assignment. By using this option, we allow the student, upon their return to our classroom, to make up the grade without having it affect his overall average. Once we've determined the information we want for this category, we can now click our Submit button. You will notice now that I have a major category which is set up for my default periods of marking period 4, 5, and 6. And then I also have a major category that is set up for just my marking period 4. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one because I've determined that I want this particular category to be applicable to all of the marking periods that are available to me. Now, let's set up an additional category. We're going to click on our Add Categories button, and this time from my drop-down list I'm going to select Daily Work. I'm going to make my daily work worth 30%. I'm going to opt to drop the lowest score. I'm not going to select any of my marking periods. I'm going to keep my exclude missing scores from the average option, and I'm going to select Submit. Now I have 2 categories. I'm going to add one additional category, and that category is going to be Test, which I'm going to make worth 30%. I will not drop the lowest grade. Once again, I won't select any particular marking period, and I'll keep my option to exclude missing scores from the average. And finally, I'm going to Submit. You will now notice that I have 3 categories. Each of these categories has a different weight, but all total together, they equal to 100. In addition, if I need to edit a particular category, I can click on my pencil icon and edit that row. If I need to delete a particular category, I can use my Delete Selected Row icon. If I wish to set up categories for an additional class, I can click my Change button. Select the class that I wish to set those categories up for and click OK. And then repeat the procedure that we saw when we created categories for the previous class. This is how you create categories for classes in Teacher Access Center.